The morning he noticed her, the city felt like it was holding its breath. The rain had stopped, but the sidewalks still glistened, reflecting a sky that couldn't decide whether to clear or collapse. He stepped into the coffee shop only to escape the cold and the weight he carried inside his chest, unaware that a single ordinary moment would quietly rearrange the rest of his life. Love did not arrive with fireworks or certainty that day. It arrived like a fragile thought, trembling and unexpected, as if it knew it might not be welcome. Before the story goes any further, take a moment and pause right here. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the quiet miracles that happen between strangers, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive. He was the kind of man who blended into crowds, the kind people passed without noticing. In his early 30s, he carried himself with a careful politeness that came from having learned the hard way that life could knock you down without warning. His job at a mid-sized marketing firm paid the bills but never touched his soul. Every morning followed the same ritual: early alarm, crowded commute, forced smiles, and the constant hum of wondering if this was all there would ever be. The coffee shop on Maple Street had become his refuge, a place where the smell of roasted beans and the low murmur of conversations made loneliness feel less sharp. She sat by the window that morning, sunlight catching in her hair as if it had chosen her deliberately. She was not trying to be noticed. There was no dramatic entrance, no perfectly styled confidence. She was simply there, stirring her coffee absent-mindedly, eyes focused on something far beyond the glass. There was a softness to her presence that made the noise around her fade. He did not know her name, her story, or even why she seemed so familiar, but something in him shifted, like a door opening that he had kept locked for years. Days passed, and the coffee shop became less about caffeine and more about possibility. He began arriving earlier, choosing the same seat across the room, pretending to scroll through his phone while memorizing the way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was thinking. He noticed small details others missed: how she smiled at the barista with genuine warmth, how she sometimes closed her eyes after the first sip, as if grounding herself, how there was a sadness that flickered across her face when she thought no one was looking. It felt dangerous to care about someone he had never spoken to, yet impossible not to. His life outside the coffee shop felt increasingly hollow by comparison. Work deadlines blurred together, meetings felt pointless, and the weight of past failures pressed harder on his chest. A broken engagement years earlier had taught him to keep his heart guarded. Loving someone once had cost him more than he had known how to give, leaving behind a fear that whispered that attachment only led to loss. Still, every time he saw her, that fear softened, replaced by a cautious hope he didn't trust but couldn't silence. What he didn't know was that she carried her own quiet battles. She had moved to the city after leaving a marriage that looked perfect from the outside but had slowly erased her from the inside. The coffee shop was her sanctuary too, a place where she could sit alone without feeling lonely, where no one asked questions she wasn't ready to answer. She was rebuilding herself piece by piece, learning how to breathe again, how to sit with her thoughts without drowning in them. Some days were stronger than others, and on the weaker days, the simple act of holding a warm cup felt like survival. Their worlds brushed against each other without touching, connected only by timing and shared space. He noticed when she stopped coming for nearly a week, the absence settling heavily in his chest. He wondered if she had moved on, found another place, another life. When she returned, looking thinner and more tired but still quietly luminous, relief washed over him so intensely it startled him. He realized then that this was no longer a harmless crush. This was a feeling with roots, growing deeper each day. The challenge was not just finding the courage to speak to her, it was believing he deserved to. He rehearsed moments in his mind, imagined casual beginnings, then watched those possibilities dissolve as soon as she looked up. His past failures echoed loudly, telling him not to risk disturbing the fragile balance he had found. Yet there was another voice, softer but persistent, reminding him that some chances come only once and often disguised as ordinary days. Change came unexpectedly, as it often does. One afternoon, a sudden power outage plunged the coffee shop into dim light and quiet confusion. The machines fell silent, and the usual rhythm broke. People shuffled awkwardly, unsure whether to leave or wait. In that pause, stripped of routine, something shifted. He looked at her, and for the first time, she looked back and truly saw him. It was not dramatic, but it was real. A shared smile passed between them, tentative but sincere, and in that moment, the distance between strangers narrowed. From that day on, everything felt different. They began acknowledging each other with small gestures, a nod, a smile, a shared understanding that something gentle was unfolding. Their connection grew slowly, respectfully, built on patience rather than urgency. He learned that love did not have to be loud to be powerful. Sometimes it arrived quietly, asking only to be noticed and nurtured. As weeks turned into months, the coffee shop remained the backdrop to a growing bond that extended beyond its walls. Walks through the city followed, conversations that stretched into evenings, and silences that felt comfortable rather than awkward. They shared pieces of themselves carefully, each story offered like a fragile gift. He spoke of his fear of failing again, of being ordinary in a world that celebrated the exceptional. She shared the pain of losing herself in someone else's expectations, of learning to stand alone again. The challenges did not disappear. There were moments when old wounds resurfaced, when misunderstandings threatened the fragile trust they had built. There were days when fear whispered that it would be safer to walk away, to return to solitude where nothing could hurt. But each time they chose to stay, to listen, to grow. Love, he learned, was not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward despite it. Near the end of this story, if it has touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who believes in quiet love, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps stories like this reach others who might need them. They stood together one evening outside the coffee shop where it all began, the city lights reflecting in the wet pavement, the air cool and alive with possibility. He realized then that falling for her had not been a sudden plunge, but a steady descent, a gentle surrender to something real. She had not saved him, and he had not rescued her. Instead, they had met each other in the middle, two imperfect people choosing connection over fear. Before the story ends, here's a special request. Please comment below and share what this story made you feel, or tell us about a moment when a small place or simple meeting changed your life. In the end, the coffee shop remained just a coffee shop, but for him, it became sacred ground. It was where he learned that love could be patient, that healing could be shared, and that sometimes the most extraordinary changes begin in the most ordinary places. He fell for her there, not all at once, but completely, and in doing so, he finally found the courage to believe that his heart was still capable of hope.